the third installment of Arbiter fights for this game. This month we have Strength. Strength the 8th. So this time around, this Arbiter fight, depending on what kind of player you are, this may be one of the easiest Arbiter fights or one of the hardest Arbiter fights in the game. So what I mean by this is, let's go ahead and talk about the stuff you need to know on how to take down Strength the 8th for this month. So as always, if you guys don't know, in order to engage the Arbiter fight, first of all, let's take it from the top. You first need to unlock, I think, like 2 maps surrounding the area. So in this case, I did this one and I did this one, and you should be able to go in here. So once you go in here, you have normal fights. The normal fights, depending on the difficulty you on, have different tags. So in this case, this is a hard one. Ignore this one for now. We'll talk about it later. Normal has basically what hard has, the shield at 30% under health or whatever, and the 50% vanguard damage. But the first skill here is going to be reverse healing. This isn't an issue because reverse healing doesn't really do much if you're doing bossing content, because you're not bringing healers to begin with, or at least I hope you guys aren't. So it's not that big of a deal. And so you're basically working with the shelling and the vanguard stuff. That's pretty much it. Not to mention, as always guys, make sure your adaptability is 203 offense, 203 survivability, and 156 tactic, to make sure you have the full debuffs going for this boss. So with that being said, those are the tags for normal Arbiter fights. As always, I recommend you guys bring carriers for this because it's really good here, and this normal one should fall really quickly. There is a gimmick in the later on the fight that I'll talk about in the next difficulty, but for the most part, normal Arbiter strength is not that big of a deal. It does a lot of damage to your vanguards, and it's annoying for the last 30% for BBs, so as always, bring your carriers. Now, that being said, let's talk about the hard one. So hard Arbiter is this one right here. For people going for a hard Arbiter, this is a brutal fight, especially if you're going for a 1 fleet clear. It is very, very brutal. If you're going for multiple fleets, it's not that big of a deal. So this time around, instead of having the reverse healing, it has 50% anti-air. This is annoying for carrier users. I use carriers a lot as well too. It's annoying. It's really, really annoying. Not to mention, you see this button right here, you click this, it has a shield. Now this shield spawns on normal and hard, and it spawns around a 36-second mark on the timer in the top right of combat or whatever. So about maybe 54 seconds into the fight, it's going to spawn the shield. And the shield not only reduces damage from shelling and air strikes, but it also takes 15% less damage. The shield is 160,000 health. You can't wait it out. You have to pop it in order to continue the fight. It is very, very annoying. Now, that's assuming you survive a full fight and go for full fleet, for 1 fleet clear. Then it's probably one of the hardest fights in the game. I had to play manual for this fight, guys. It is brutal, brutal, brutal. So if you're going for 1 fleet clear, it is rough. But if you're going for multiple fleets, it shouldn't be that big of a deal, because the shield spawns after 54 seconds of fighting, 36 seconds on the timer in the top right. So what that means is, if you have like multiple fleets prepared, usually you can probably get off like 2 good rotations before the shield spawns, and you can probably do a good chunk of damage to the boss already. And again, if you guys fight this boss normally, it's not a big issue because you're only taking vanguard damage, and the shield right here doesn't apply until the last 30% of health. So the first minute of the fighting is basically just a level 130 boss that does a lot of damage to your vanguard. You're pretty much working with just 1 tag alone. So these things right here don't really apply much unless you're using carriers. They might be pretty annoying. So best way about doing this is do battleships first to not be annoyed by this part right here, and then do the carriers at the end. Now, if you're on auto, again, this is not an issue at all because you probably won't survive more than 2 rotations because this boss hurts a lot. Especially if you're on full auto, it hurts a lot. If you're on manual, you can probably dodge some stuff. It's not that big of a deal, but on auto, it is brutal because this 50% vanguard damage is very, very brutal to your lineup. So I say if you're at least well geared, if you're able to clear normal Arbiter strength already, this fight shouldn't take more than like 3 fleets. 3 or 4 fleets, or obviously 4 fleets, but 3 fleets, because you're not going to be annoyed by the shield most of the time, because this doesn't apply until like at least a minute, or around a minute into the fight, so you won't be annoyed by this. And you just go ahead and just fight normally. The anti-air is pretty annoying for carriers. The shield's annoying for battleships, and then the last line is annoying for vanguards. But it's not that brutal of a fight. We're going for like 3-4 fleet clears. But if you're going for a 1 fleet clear, it is this right here. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. So as always, recommended gear that I recommend that you guys use, as always, is gonna be just, if you're using carriers, the AP rockets right here are massive. Why? Because AP rockets have an incredibly high damage modifier for medium armor. So having this right here is very, very good. Torpedo bombers are also pretty nice as well too. They don't have as high as the AP rockets, but they're still very good. Junkers, Ryuseis, whatever you guys want to use, they're good here. And dive bombers, just sliding your best dive bombers that you have. They also apply a little bit less damage than torpedo bombers, but they still contribute some damage to the overall fight. So bring out your best carriers here. August von Parsifal is very good here as well too. Just like the last fight, so if you guys have AVP, use her really as well. Otherwise, any carriers that are very powerful, like Ark Royal, Enterprise, the 2 UR carriers right here, stuff like that. Because it is a medium armor fight, so that means there's a lot of leeway for what you can use, like AP rockets or a fighter carrier, whatnot. It's not that strict, because medium armor is probably like the most versatile armor typing in the game that you can use for like whatever ships you guys want. So just use any carriers that have a fighter slots, but make sure that you guys use the AP rockets, because these things are very good for this fight. Now, if you're going for battleships, again, this is not a hard fight for battleships at all, unless it lasts 30%. As always, make sure you guys have AP ammo. AP ammo guns can be whatever you guys want. You can use the MK4s that you get from the gear shop. These work very well as well too, because their modifiers are really good for medium armor. So MK4s are good here. Champagne's gun, these things right here are also very good, because once again, 140% damage modifiers on medium armor, very good here. So AP, as always, make sure you guys equip properly on whatever you guys ship comps you guys want to use. Recommend as always the UR ships. If you guys don't have UR ships, just use like Georgia is really good here. Monarch can work as well too. She has AP barrage and whatnot. Anything that gets any value out of AP usage is really good here for battleships. So keep that in mind. As for vanguards, if you guys are playing on auto, highly recommend you guys don't do that, because it's going to be very annoying. But if you guys are, definitely use large cruisers. And even then, if you guys even are using large cruisers, this boss hurts a lot, especially on hard mode. It hurts a lot. So keep that in mind if you're trying to do this on auto with large cruiser or just vanguards alone. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt a lot. So if you guys can't play manual, that's great. You can avoid a lot of the barrages that this ship does or whatever. It hurts a lot. So tankiness is good here. Buffers, the Helena, the usual Kazagumo, stuff like that works well too. But definitely make sure every fleet has one very durable tank. Large cruisers are good. Any heavy cruiser with like a lot of health is really good here too. The usual stuff. All right. So in terms of boss mechanics, this boss right here, it has just it's pretty annoying for like low like low spec PCs, low spec phones or whatever. The reason why is because this boss, every couple of seconds she jumps into the air and causes an earthquake, and that earthquake shakes your screen and shoots out projectiles as well too. I don't know about you guys, but if I'm like running like a lot of things in the background, I'm doing this fight, the earthquakes lag my screen a lot. It lags a lot. I get like frame lags, I get all that other jazz. It gets really bad if I have like a lot of like browsers and stuff open up in the background. It gets pretty bad. So one thing to keep in mind is if you guys are playing manual, please try to be in front of the boss at all times. Otherwise that shockwave will hit you and it'll hurt a lot. And make sure you have mobility. Mobility is always key in these fights, because this boss shoots out a lot of projectiles. And if you guys don't know, this boss also has 50% damage, so you don't want to get hit by those. Even if you have evasion stuff, she will rip through your evasion gear like it's nothing, because she's level 130. So keep that in mind. So if you're on auto, I avoid doing that, but if you guys want to do that, go ahead. Otherwise, play manual and dodge. And then, as always, the shield here. As for the shield, what you guys want to do, what I recommend you guys doing is that around the time of the shield, or like around 40 seconds on the top right timer or whatever, I call in submarines. The reason why is because submarines will shred that shield down by themselves if they're at least well geared. Bitters and stuff, all that jazz. Make sure your submarines are pretty well geared, and they will shred through that boss like none other. This also applies for Helena scan, because the Helena scan also works on the shield. So if you have Helena scans with your submarines, they will rip through that shield like no one's business. If you're 125 subs, very easy. If you have 120 subs, it may be a little bit difficult. You may have to use one airstrike or one volley from your battleships to get rid of finish off this shield. And then you save all your barrages or whatever, all your volleys until the last 10 seconds or whatever on your last Helena scan, and then you blow up everything. And that's how you want to do this fight. So make sure for that shield, try to call in submarines. Otherwise, you're going to have to waste one rotation on the shield, and that means your damage goes down by a lot. And then you guys should be okay. So those are my tips for you guys. For the most part, this boss shouldn't be difficult if you guys are running multiple fleets for clearing. Otherwise, if you're going for like one fleet clears for whatever reason, it is probably one of the hardest fights in the game that you'll ever do. So good luck, guys. Hopefully this video helps, and I'll see you guys in the next video.